Alright everyone, it is time for my own solo midterm recap. I will be talking to H.A. Goodman later, BitChute exclusive as well. That'll be edited and then put on, I believe, late afternoon or possibly tomorrow. Pretty quick the last time with the BitChute exclusive sort of series. Now it's time to recap though. I hate to toot my own horn, but I think that I had some of the most accurate predictions again. Like some people were claiming that the Democrats wouldn't take the House. They have taken the House. Right now they're literally up by one seat. The thing is, there are a bunch of others that haven't been tallied up, and in some of them the Dems are leading, in some the Republicans are leading. There aren't any full toss-ups left. We do have some results from all of them. It looks like, though, and this is what I predicted, the House is only going narrowly Democrat. They wanted to be up by like 30 or 40 seats. Some of the projections show that, like again, the Young Turks said they'd be up by like 46. They're not going to get there. They'll be lucky if they're up by a total of 20, and that's net. That means that they've got 10 seats beyond the 50-50 point. That's not a blue wave. Everyone, Don Lemon, the Young Turks, they're all even admitting they've actually come to their senses a little bit more quickly than like 2016. I think it's because the fact that they took the House at all means they're breathing a sigh of relief, so now they can admit there was no blue wave. Because if we look over to the Senate, exactly what I predicted happened. Although two of the states switched, Montana I thought was further out for the Republicans than Nevada, indeed as a whole. And the opposite happens. Right now, with over 80% in, they're still ahead in Montana. It's possible that they gain that. That gives them 52. They haven't called Arizona or Florida, but the Republicans have essentially won. There's like 100% of the count in, and they're ahead in both. The thing is, it's within the margin where there's an automatic recount. But I mean, what do you expect to happen? The automatic recount is quite literally just an automatic process. Within a couple of days, they'll call those, I think, for the Republicans. And then, of course, you're going to have some absentee votes and stuff. I can't imagine that flips any of these races. But the big winners of last night, number one was marijuana, honestly. 3 of 4 states that were considering it, Michigan, Montana, and Utah, legalized marijuana. North Dakota narrowly defeated it. Well, narrow by their standards. It's not a huge surprise. Montana has had quite a bit of a weed culture. Utah, I think, is more of a surprise. A big Mormon state. Mormonism, sort of excoriates the use of marijuana or any other substance. It is rather interesting that they would legalize and North Dakota wouldn't. Just the quirky regions of the upper western states being quirky, I suppose. So yeah, weed is a big winner. Number 2, definitely James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. Every single one of the races they targeted went red, despite the polling showing it being up for the Democrats. Florida, Bill Nelson was up by 2 or 3 points. He's lost. He's already conceded to Rick Scott, even though they haven't officially totally sort of called it. He's conceded, so Rick Scott won. That's the 52nd Senate seat, by the way, for them, 53rd with Indiana. 53rd with Missouri, where McCaskill was knocked out. And that's the other big one. Claire McCaskill is gone. In Missouri, she was knocked out again. Project Veritas, their first target was Claire McCaskill. Caused her to lose about 4 points. I expected that to happen. Arizona with Sinema, I was giving a better than 50-50 shot for the Republicans going in. It looks like, again, that very narrow margin. It's like, a 51% chance of winning this one, therefore 54th seat. It looks like that happened. And then, of course, in a surprise, and Veritas had targeted him, Andrew Gillum in Florida actually losing his bid for the gubernatorial challenge there. So DeSantis is now governor in the state of Florida. That's a good thing, by the way. Gillum got hit the hardest. He was up by the most, I think, other than maybe Donnelly. But Donnelly fucking collapsed. But here you see, in all of these races, there was roughly a 4-point drop for the Democrats after Veritas' release. In Indiana, the drop turned out to be almost 10 points. And the reason, I think, is because he was already suffering after his insinuated racialism at the debate performance, which caused some of his further left fans to just stay home. They're like, well, you got this older white dude saying something that could be interpreted as racist. We've all been told that's a bad thing. I know I should vote for him because he's not a Republican, but I'm not going to bother. And so it depressed turnout, I think, is what you're seeing. Also, I was correct with regards to the Vermont gubernatorial race. It was funny. They waited hours to call this, despite the fact that you've got 60-70% of the vote in. Phil Scott's ahead like by 55 to like 40 or something. It was some insane number, and it was very funny. And also, and remember, this was a big one to watch, One of the biggest races to watch, I said, was Feinstein versus De Leon in California. Two Democrats. There's no Republican in the race. Feinstein will win. What's the margin? I said if it's 40% or even maybe 35% for De Leon, the Democrats are going to have schismatic troubles. What's De Leon at? He's at 45%. He actually came within 10 points of defeating Feinstein, who's backed by the whole corporate Democratic apparatus, a 5-term incumbent, basically a perennial senator. And yet he came within 10 points despite coming out of basically nowhere in this campaign. The Democrats going forward for the next 2 years, here's what I expect. Pelosi is going to be under massive pressure to deliver to her base a bunch of subpoenas and investigations, impeach Trump, haha, we've got the House, we can impeach. And people that are clueless and don't realize you need the Senate to remove the president will force them to do that. The Democrats will probably overstretch. They're not going to find wrongdoing. You've had 2 years for Mueller with carte blanche to be able to find wrongdoing. His probe at some point here will end. They're going to go Benghazi mode, and Trump will probably be reelected by campaigning against obstruction. By the way, stocks are up. The financial markets are liking the fact that there will be split government. I think it would have been surprising if at the end of the night the Republicans hadn't lost the House narrowly. Keep in mind, towards the end, based on early voting, that's when I knew it was going to be closer than what the Young Turks were predicting and stuff. By the way, big loser of the night, Cenk, as usual. The Young Turks, definitely the biggest loser. As far as their stream, they were hitting like 60,000, but they need millions of dollars and 4 or 5 different people to do that. I brought on a bunch of YouTuber guests, and we were running at 26,000 people live. That's way more, I think, than we're watching in 2016. Can you imagine in 2020, as the alt media, which is the other big winner of the night, marches along? I mean, you're talking people were pulling in thousands or tens of thousands of live viewers. That is, that literally hundreds of thousands, probably millions total of people were watching a bunch of independent alt media perspectives rather than tuning into, the Young Turks, which is sellout corporate off-hook media, or certainly cable news. It's like when the Iraq War happened, everyone was tuned in live to CNN. The next time that there's a big invasion, another big proxy war for oil, people will be watching live streams on on Gab or something like that. Alt tech also a big winner. These sites, of course, instrumental in notifying people that such materials are actually being made. 26,000 people live. That's pretty significant. So everything's there. All the markers are there that I predicted. From a narrow House victory for the Dems, that's not fully calculated yet. There are like 20, 30 races left. It'll be probably about a 50-50 split. The Republicans lose the House, but it's not by a huge margin. Meanwhile, they've gained in the Senate. They're riding at 54. Assuming that, Florida, with the concession there in Florida, that's a guaranteed 52nd. They're ahead in Arizona and Montana with most of the votes counted. They're just within that automatic recount sort of situation. I expect the Republicans, therefore, to have 54 in the Senate, which is exactly what I predicted is the most likely number. And then I predicted all of these other things that are happening. But Project Veritas, definitely a huge winner. The Republican Party needs to give more support to independent journalists like O'Keefe. Stop being cowards and stop being afraid of being called yellow journalists or something. Look, no, that's what happens at CNN. And groups like that were struggling last night to have anyone watching their streams. Most people were there to shitpost. The Young Turks, they were getting totally ratioed. I think probably their live stream still is. And then I'm looking today, I wake up. And it's funny, and I look and there's like 250,000 total views on the live stream, like literally. Now 120, 130,000 people have watched it when it's not live as well. So that's the gift that keeps on giving. And by the way, YouTube giving algorithmic favorability to channels that have that happen. When you have a long form video or a live stream, something longer, that's got a lot of user attention, that people are paying more attention to, it shoots you up in the algorithms and you get days of preferential treatment. So all the people that had big streams last night, didn't Jim stream, or was he just on the Ralph Retort? H.A. Goodman, I believe Lionel streamed, Fuentes, a few of these others. Progressive Voice was streaming, among others. Right Side Broadcasting, some of these others that I follow. Interesting night. And also, again, the big one, Texas, where Beto O'Rourke lost. Esteval very kindly admitting to that shortly after. He's like, oh, that moron Cruz one. Yeah, he is. I wouldn't have cared if you were right. If Cruz had lost, it wouldn't have bothered me at all. and the Republicans would still be riding on 53, well within the range that I was predicting, with the possibility, of course, again, I didn't expect them to pick up Montana. That's one thing I got wrong. I thought Nevada holds and Montana doesn't go red. Instead, it looks like the opposite. Other than that, the map looks basically like I expected. New Jersey, of course, again, as expected, Menendez did not magically lose. In fact, the ratio of his victory was around what was expected. There was no significant poll bias. I warned, by the way, to all of the GOPers that were getting Karl roved. Did I not warn you that just because there was a systemic polling bias perceived for some Senate races, that doesn't mean it transfers to the House? And just because you have a 7-point differential in 2016 doesn't mean you still have one in the midterms. The fact is, midterm turnout and enthusiasm was going to be lower even if it favored the Republicans, which it did slightly. It looks like it favored them. And by the way, again, female voters, white women, overwhelmingly voting Republican in most of these races. That's a huge problem. The Democrats have lost the gender war, it seems. And also they're losing in some of these races. Like Ted Cruz got almost 40% of the Hispanic vote. That's monumental. By the way, that keeps Texas from ever going blue. I mean, fuck it. So, keep dreaming about blue waves and blue Texas and all this stupid shit. I warned the Democrats not to expect a blue wave. They got a big dick about it. Now they're all fucking salty, especially the Democrats in Texas. Meanwhile, there are a bunch of Republicans who swore up and down that the House was going to hold GOP. I warned them, look, gut instinct is, yes, it's possible that you're right, but gut instinct is the Democrats will narrowly take it. Not enough for a blue wave, not enough to give Pelosi any real power. By the way, what's going to happen for the next 2 years? Trump's going to campaign against Nancy Pelosi. Now you've set the stage. Looking at the Feinstein-De Leon results and how close they are. I didn't even expect them to be that close. I figured De Leon would probably be riding on 40, 42 or something. He gets to 45. The progressive, anti-establishment wing of the Democrats is considerably more powerful than it was in 2016. They're going to clamor for Pelosi not to lead them. They probably won't get their wish, which will alienate millions of leftist voters. The Democrats will try to obstruct. Trump will probably try to outmaneuver them with a grand bargain. I mentioned that the biggest thing Trump could do right now to foil the Democrats, get him running around in circles, offer to back recreational legalized marijuana federally. Offer to legalize it federally in the official capacity in return for a middle class and working class some small tax cut. The Democrats will probably not vote for it. Therefore, they will get screwed on both ends. They'll be playing up to the party base while essentially continuously alienating the working and middle class Rust Belt voters, which you need for re-election. Big important thing. Number two, I think a lot of Senate races up there in 2020 as well, if I remember correctly. That'll be a critical one. Watch these the Senate polls for the next 2 fucking years. And then they get screwed on weed because those further left voters will punish them and keep in mind, the working class and further left Democrats are the ones alienated. When Pelosi and Perez are in charge, when the core of the party are neoliberals and centrists, those are the two groups that get left behind. Trump can cause them to become further alienated from the Democrats. The former likely to defect to third parties, the latter likely to stay basically Trump Democrats, Reagan Republican style thing. Reagan Democrat style thing, crossover voters in the working class districts of the Rust Belt. He can screw the Democrats twice as hard as he did in 2016. By the way, he's going to browbeat them on the wall. They'll obstruct, and he'll say, hey, to my voters, we got tax relief, we got diplomacy, we got rid of the insurance mandate, which, by the way, was one of the biggest issues I was looking at. We did what we could. I face some obstruction within the Republican House. I need more Republicans, though, this time around. Crush the Democrats. We can get back to work. He will run on an anti-obstruction ticket, plus the strong economy, which I can't imagine magically tanks in the next 2 years. And he will probably win re-election. And there are a few wise Democratic pollsters right now saying if Pelosi does what she does best, which is be an imperialist over a fucking party and become very visible and rant and rave and say incoherent centrist left shit sprinkled with some dog whistles to the social justice warriors, that Trump is going to run roughshod over them. I agree. You need the Democrats, if they want any chance, they need to muzzle Pelosi. The problem is they're not going to be able to do that. And here's the other thing. The Democrats' biggest disadvantage is that they refuse to form a platform beyond Stop Trump. They're setting themselves up for another fucking 2 years of doing the same shit. They're doing the same stupid thing. Instead of saying, here's our for the next 2 years, we're going to work with the president and we're going to try to pass expanded environmental controls. We're going to try to give the poor more welfare, more relief. We're going to try to work on immigration. Instead of coming out to the Democrats saying, hey, now it's time, we have the House, we're going to negotiate, we're going to use our leverage, and we're going to get something accomplished. They're saying, no, we're not going to do anything. We're going to investigate Trump. We're going to subpoena his tax returns. Isn't that a fucking dead issue? Anyone who cared about that stopped caring long, long ago, unless there's such a loyalist that you don't need to appease the party loyal. The third of the country that's partisan Democrat are going to vote for you anyway. Now, you're trying to energize a third of the country while alienating another third that's not natural-born Republicans that you need to be targeting, and I don't understand the methodology. It already lost you 2016. You failed at generating a blue wave because you didn't want to tackle actual issues. You could have had it if you had had something to run on other than this is a referendum on Trump. Vote for us because the other guy is orange and scary. The Democrats, again, they technically win the night in the House. They get hammered in the Senate, but now they're trying to hammer themselves. So yeah, I think the big winner is alt media, marijuana, Project Veritas, I guess the Texas Republicans, female voters there especially. Very, very good night overall. I had a great deal of fun. And now later on I'll be talking as well. Again, BitChute exclusive with H.A. Goodman, I believe is planned for later. That's about all. Peace out.